Burlesque Stripped Down, episode number 33. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Velvet Eau Claire. As always, I am your guide through us, the stories, the secrets, the saucy, sexy, not so sexy sometimes secrets of the ladies and gents behind the tassels. I have something very, very special for you today. We are live right now with Miss Leopard Lass today, and I am super excited. We had a little bit of a time difference and some confusing math things happening. It was crazy, but I'm really excited to launch into this interview, which I just have no doubt is going to be amazing. First, a couple quick announcements. If you didn't check out, it was actually just yesterday that I actually published the episode. It was my favorites from the month of June. So that's a new thing I'm doing every month. I'm just kind of going through a quick hot tips episode on some of my favorite new discoveries that I have made throughout the previous month. So definitely head over to burlesquestrippeddown.com/June favorites, and you can check out all of my favorite things, from music to apps to a tiny little amazing, huge, getting bigger every day crush that I have on Mr. Adam Driver, because he is something sexy. I don't know why. It's crazy. So anyway, so that's the major announcement. I, of course, had Professor Pinkerton's Xyloma on last week, so definitely check that out. But for now, let's stop thinking about the past. Let's stop thinking about the future. Let us focus on what is right here and now. Welcome, Leopard. How are you doing?
I'm really great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Anytime. I'm so excited that we were able to work this out. As we were chatting a little bit before, I mentioned that it's July 3rd here, so it's of course right before the 4th of July holiday. So you may hear a couple pops and bangs and booms in the background that are fireworks, but perhaps they're just for you, right?
Yeah, they are. I'm pretty sure they were organized for me. So thank you,
Absolutely.
America. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
So clearly you are not American. Where are you coming to us from today?
So I'm at home in Adelaide, Australia, which is in the south of Australia.
Excellent. And do you spend all of your time there? Is that kind of where you're based, or?
So that's where my house is. It's where my family is. So it is where I'm based. But I do travel all around Australia for shows and performing when I'm not doing the international circuit.
Fabulous. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and kind of jump right in. I'd love to know, what do you have going on right now that you are just the most excited and pumped up about?
I have a couple of things. The most imminent thing is that in less than a month, I'm heading up to the sort of northeast of Australia, to the tropics, and I'm going to be performing up there and bringing like an exclusive fire show to the Jungle Bar and some other cool stuff and workshops to the cabaret show up there. So I'm really excited for that, because it means I get to leave 11-degree weather, which is I think about 45 degrees for you guys. 45 Fahrenheit. So. Yeah, which is cold for me. I don't like it at all. Yeah, so I get to go up there and do that, and they're going to be tropical, so they're going to be in the sort of 30s, I reckon. So that's, like 70, 80 degrees, which I'm much more comfortable with, let me tell you. And then looking a little bit tiny bit further, towards the end of the year, I come back to the States for a 6-week road sideshow tour, which I'm really excited about. So.
Oh, fun. Where will you be heading in the States? Do you know?
It's being produced and set up by my friends Sanjula Vamana and Titano over there. So my geography is awful. So I don't exactly know, but I know I have to get to Chicago, and then I know I have to get in a car, and then we are going to drive down. And I know we are going to be in Florida and hopefully LA and things like that as well. So, and Texas. Ooh. So there's a lot of driving involved in this.
Yeah, it's pretty much all the corners there, just about.
Yeah, right. So I know. So we're sort of going to be doing all that sort of craziness. And so I'll be putting all that sort of stuff up on my websites and things like that as all of the tour dates and confirmations come through.
Yeah, that's really exciting. I'm going to keep an eye out for that, and we'll have to stay in touch as well. If you do come to Florida, I'd love to see you in person.
Yes, I would love that too. That's the great thing about Facebook. We meet so many people, but the even better thing is meeting people in real life. I really enjoy that and sort of connecting with people that way.
Absolutely. I'm really excited. I think I'm going to be heading over to BurlieCon this year for the first time, and I've done that, and I'm really, really excited to kind of get to meet all these people in person that I've been talking to and chatting with and interviewing and all of that. So
yeah, I have never been to BurlieCon, but it's definitely on my list. I'll be back in States for that, and I'm hoping we can jag it so we don't work that weekend, so I can head out and just hang out with girls. because I feel
Oh, that'd
like
be great.
6 weeks on the road with three guys and two pit bulls is potentially going to be one of my most interesting things to write about and talk about.
Indeed, you might need a little feminine energy kind of
I think I
reinfused
might
in you
need
after
some feathers and glitter. Yeah, I feel like I
that.
will.
Absolutely. That's great. So tell us a little bit about, actually, first of all, just kind of tell us about yourself. I mean, we know you're in Australia. We know you do a touring circuit, but I mean, I loved what you had even just on your Instagram, and I don't have it up in front of me, but just in your profile there, just kind of that down and dirty. Tell us about who you are, what you encompass, how you go about this thing that we call life.
Okay, so I'm pretty cruisy, although people who are around me a lot probably think quite the opposite. I'm pretty much on the go 24/7, and especially doing the world circuit performing sort of thing. You're constantly in contact with people and being, and contactable. So, I'm constantly looking at time zones and things like that and chatting to friends and in other countries, which is really awesome, but can be quite isolating sometimes when you feel like your friends are nowhere near you. Having said that, I do have a great group of people and family and support here back home and in Australia. Um, but as a performer, I do say that I like to fuse sideshow and sex, and sideshow being the sort of classic vaudeville, freak show style of performance that you'd see in things like Coney Island and then also obviously at Venice Beach as well. Um, so my only formal training as a performer has been at the Coney Island Sideshow School. I did an intensive course there and learnt the basics, and then I came home and I've started developing that and turning that into myself and honing myself as a performer. Yeah, I think that's probably me in a nutshell.
And how long have you been performing?
So I technically bust out. Is that what you guys call it? Is that when you
Uh,
had do your first performance? What do you guys call that?
I think some people do. I've definitely heard that before here in the States, but we
Okay.
might call it just your debut, I guess.
Yeah, okay. So I guess I debuted in 2013, in March of 2013.
Uh-huh.
And it was actually in a competition.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, so that was quite intimidating. I had worked as a stage kitten the year previous, and I had been learning circus sort of in the year previous to that. So sort of 2011, 2012, I had been doing the aerial hoop or the lyra. I'm not sure what you guys call it over there.
Yep.
But I'd been doing that and sort of just messing around and just doing it for fitness um, and actually in the lead up to my mum's 50th birthday, I was going to do an act on the lyra. And on that same weekend, a friend who had come to a couple of the lyra classes, she was producing the Miss Burlesque South Australia final. And so she did a call out for a stage kitty, and I said I could help. And I went and I just watched this amazing show, and I thought, oh, man, I could do this. This is amazing. This is like, and I could do my circus stuff in it. And I've always, even before I had done the training with the sideshow school, I always had just really loved the circus and felt excited by it. And the idea of traveling and doing what you love every day and setting up in a new town and meeting new people
Yeah.
and showing people this just the whole lifestyle of just living on the road and just going and just setting up and showing people what you do and then moving on really appealed to
Yeah.
me. And I find that so fascinating. And I ultimately would love to buy a Spiegel tent and to actually do that and set up these shows around the world with my friends
Oh,
and just,
that's
basically
amazing.
just have a traveling carnival that is basically like Leopard Lass and friends. And you just rock up in town and you do like a weekend of shows and then you cruise on to the next one. Like that's my ultimate dream, I think.
Oh,
As,
that's amazing. Yeah, some
so,
friends of mine are actually, we're kind of in the very beginning stages, but we're discussing because they all, a couple of my friends fancy themselves a bit of pirates, right? So they
yeah,
want to kind
right.
of buy a boat, and we're talking about putting together some sort of cabaret show that's very similar. And
Yeah.
it's a far dream in the future, but I love that idea, just like you were talking about just kind of showing up and doing some things, getting people excited, and then
Yeah.
moving on to the next one, you
And
know?
that's part of the romance with performance and cabaret and burlesque and all of these sorts of and sideshow is that you can't see it all the time. You
Yes,
you
absolutely.
have to search for it or you have to, the circus was if the circus was there every night of the week, you would get sick of the circus. But, you know, a circus comes into town, you see the tents going up, the excitement builds, you see whatever's going on, and you're just like, oh, my God, it's coming. You know, like that's the kind of stuff that I love about, you know, especially festivals and things like that. You know, with the burlesque festivals, you have the build up to the festival, you have, you know, and people get excited by that sort of stuff. And I think in those sorts of situations, you have a chance to bring in an audience that wouldn't necessarily seek out burlesque or sideshow as a style. I'm very lucky that in Adelaide we have the Adelaide Fringe Festival, which is a month-long arts festival, and it's basically the same style of thing. There's fringe festivals all around the world, but we're the second biggest next to Edinburgh. So we have,
wow.
Yeah, it's huge. And there's so many thousands of shows, and people come from around the world to be part of the shows. They come from around the world to be a part of Adelaide because it's just such a vibe, an intense vibe. You know, there's street performers and things like that. So it's the same thing that we have. There's a couple of key sections in the city where there's the Garden of Unearthly Delights, and then alongside that there's Gluttony. And as soon as as an artist, I know, as soon as you start seeing the fences go up and you start seeing the big sign with all the lights, and you just like, my people are coming, you know, like it's just.
You can feel it in the air.
And it's just electric in the air, and people, you're just out, and they're just up for seeing things. And, you know, they might buy a show, they might buy tickets to shows, or they might just go sit in one of the gardens, you know, like the free gardens, and just experience what it is. But 9 times out of 10, those people wouldn't go and experience that situation or that environment anywhere else, because it's, you know, that excitement is built, and they hang out for it, you know.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm gonna have to add that to my list. I've never been to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival either, so that is definitely on my list. And then I'll have to add Adelaide on there as well.
Yeah, well, you can come visit me.
Yay, that'd be
I have
so
a
much
little
fun.
artist retreat. I converted my back garage into a little room down in the back garden, we call it now. And so I've had some performers from around the world come and stay in there while they've been here on their fringe tours. So you are more than welcome whenever you come.
Well, I appreciate that. I may take you up on that.
Yeah.
I still have never been to Australia
I've now put that
yet,
live, so if anyone wants to hit me up, as long as you're not a murderer, I will probably accept you with open arms.
Well, hopefully we don't have too many murderers listening to this show. I would hope
not. I'd hope they'd have better things to do.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, like running from the police and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you know, and disposing of things, you know.
Yes, exactly. Priorities. Right?
Yeah.
So would you consider yourself a burlesque performer, or how do you kind of define yourself? Like if somebody asks you what you do, if they don't know you and they ask you what you do, how would you kind of define yourself?
I run the words together very closely, and I say I'm a burlesque and sideshow performer.
Okay.
But I'm a little anti-labels when it comes to performance styles, because I don't ever want to box myself in, or I don't want to ever alienate even just potential like audience members. If they think that it's just burlesque, or if they think that it's going to be just sideshow, they might be less inclined. But I do generally, you know, I would say vaudeville, I would say performer. I kind of just leave that up in the air, but I definitely, my standard reply to that is I'm a burlesque and sideshow performer.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So let's go back a little. I mean, you were talking about, you know, kind of that journey that you had. Was it, I mean, you said you Kitten for that show. Was that kind of the moment you really knew, or was it kind of a slower burn from there, or did it really just click all into place all at once?
It kind of just dropped. It just dropped. I was just like, that's what I gotta do. But at that point I had no skills. I mean, technically probably still have no skills now. But I didn't follow any formal training. And I didn't go to a burlesque school or college and do any courses or anything like that. I just thought, I'll be able to muddle it out and come up with some ideas and things like that. And so basically 9 months later, the competition was put up, and you had to, you know, basically tell them what you wanted to do. If you're an established performer, you had videos and things like that, and photos to prove what you were going to do. And luckily enough, I got accepted into that final based on my ideas and costuming and stuff like that. And then I was put in. And the way that this competition runs is that basically there's up to 10. So there's up to 10 finalists, and then they all run a classic piece, which is, like your sort of classic golden era style burlesque, and then you do a neo piece as well. And then if you're placed in the top 5 with judging, you go on to perform a unique piece, and that can be whatever you want it to be, and it's basically to showcase what you do that's special. And so my goal was like just get in the top 5. If you can do your unique piece, then you have done, and I mean, thinking back on it, I think we had eight that year. And I remember just thinking, like, if I just get into the top 5, I'll be able to show my unique, and I'll be really happy with that. And I placed in the top 5, and so I got to do my unique. So I did an aerial hoop piece with like an Alice in Wonderland style theme, but using quite dark, almost glitch hop sort of music. So it was quite dark and scary. It was basically Alice was turning into the Queen of Hearts at the end. And then I placed 4th in that competition, which I thought was that blew me away.
Amazing.
I kind of forgot after getting into the top 5, that was my excitement done. So to place 4th, that was lovely. But that then sort of pushed me, and then I was like, right, so what am I going to do next? And obviously there was a few hundred people in that audience. So then people saw me, and I got booked for another show, and then people saw me at that show, and then it sort of snowballed from there. But yeah, I would have to say that my biggest then push was in 2014. I was brought in as a local performer for a show that came from the UK. And so I met some beautiful performers, Silk Desire from Rome, Raven Noir from the UK, and Doll I Am as well, and met these girls, and I just thought I was the shittest performer in the world. Like, I don't know if you've ever had this feeling as a performer where you walk into a room and you just feel like you've got the dullest crystals in the world. I don't know if you've ever had that. But I honestly, I walked in that first night and I was so overwhelmed. Like Raven Noir, I don't know if you're familiar with her. Her costuming, her feathers are insane. And she's got headdresses and then feathers off capes. And I just remember, and then Silk Desire is this beautiful little ballet pretzel. She calls herself the Italian pretzel. She does like contortion and things like that. And her costume was sparkling. She's this powder puff routine and she's flipping cute. And I was like, fuck me, I'm just going to do hula hooping and smoke a cigar. Like, how am I going to do something cool? But I remember the first night I was just so nervous, and I felt like I did an awful job. I got great feedback, but I felt like I was not to my best. And then I remember just thinking, and I had a 30-day run doing shows for these girls. We were doing a show a night for 30 days.
Wow.
And I remember just thinking like, oh, mate, you fucked yourself this time, didn't you? Like you've thrown yourself in the deep end and you can't even swim. You're an idiot. And I just remember I was talking to my mum the next day. My mum and I are very close. She was a ballet dancer up until she was 34, I think. So, wow. Her and I, all of my choreography gets passed by her before it even gets onto a stage.
That's great.
Just because I really value her opinion, and her opinion is dance-based, not burlesque-based, which means, it's even though I'm not a technically trained dancer, even I feel like it is not just it's not just taking my clothes off for the sake of being burlesque, if that makes sense. It's about telling a story and making sure that story makes sense. And the bonus is that my clothes come off sometimes, but that's not the point of the act. So I was just like, Mom, you have no idea. I don't know. I just can't. And she was just like, your acts are good, but you can be better with this experience. And I was just like, okay. And I remember just sitting even in the dressing room and listening to the girls and watching the girls and seeing what they were doing. It was my first real experience with like a big thing where you're part of a group. Even though we weren't a troupe as such, we were a group and we were doing a group performance. And I remember just thinking like, all right, what can I learn from this? And the friendships I have are still cherished to this day. But that just the feeling of watching and seeing how these women who've been doing it before me and just watching what they were doing, I was just like, okay, what can I do? And so it was just basically like how do I cement myself as a performer? How do I grow myself and make sure that I'm representing myself as Leopard Lass all the time? And that was so important to me. And the polish that you get from doing your act, like literally every day for 30 days in a row, was insane. Like I learned, you learn where your what your audience like what you think the audience is going to like is not necessarily what they react to. That was so valuable to then be able to sort of work on that and then and get comfortable with an audience actually looking at you. We were in quite a small venue, which for my style of performance now, I really crave a close audience. A lot of, especially using Sideshow, unless you're using Fire, which is visually quite striking and can be seen from afar. But things like glass eating, for example, or blockhead, they need to be, you need to be literally on an audience member's lap. To get that sound, like I sat on a guy's lap and sat there crunching glass in his ear, cuddling up to him recently.
Oh, wow.
And he was just like, oh my God, like he couldn't take his eyes off me. And it wasn't because I was just in pasties and a panel skirt. It was because I'm literally feeding myself and then trying to feed him some glass at the same time, So it's just a completely different a completely different vibe, but having that close contact with your audience at that point in my development as a character or a performer, I felt really showed me that you can't be lazy with your movement and your intention either. When they're that close, you can't get away with a sloppy something or not putting your full energy into it, because it can really be felt. We didn't have any lighting or anything like that. We just had our sound, like it was a bare stage, and so there was nothing to prop us up, as which is it's fabulous if you can be in a production that has those big scale productions. Like that's what everyone dreams for.
Sure.
But at the same time, the bare bones of it is, if you have a good act and a good act on a bare stage, then just imagine what you can do with better production and things like that. But I think you should always never rely on the production and all of that sort of stuff. I think that can be a bonus, but you need to have strong stuff going on at first. So that's what really pushed me in 2014.
Wow. There are so many things I love about that story you just told, like so many. I love that you can tell us a story and be so open and honest about what I like to call, and I have called, we've actually done an episode on this podcast before about the imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
It's something, I think it's so important that the conversation is started about this kind of thing, because I think every single fucking one of us feels it, at some point or another. Everybody goes through that, I'm sure even Dita Von Teese has her moments, or at least she had her moments.
And we have to realize and pay credit and where it's due is, like, everyone's had that. No one started with $1,000 costumes or hundreds of $1,000 productions, and no one started that way. I don't think anyone has.
They're an anomaly if they did, but
exactly. And like, more power to you. If that's what you had and that's what you got and that's where you started, then that's amazing. But
I think that comes with its own struggles, in different ways. There are probably some struggles in that as well. But
absolutely. There's struggles producing art. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you've got a $10 budget or a $10,000 budget. As artists, we all have that fear that we're putting something of ourselves on a stage, and whether we like it or not, we are being judged on it.
Absolutely, and that vulnerability. Yeah.
There's such a fear with that. I was just discussing this with my boyfriend, actually, who's an artist. And I was just saying, like, I don't think there's ever a show, and it doesn't matter what act I'm doing, where I'm not nervous about going on there. And it's not because I don't know what I'm doing or whatever, but it's just, what if someone doesn't like it? Or what if someone doesn't like me because they don't like what I'm doing? And then it's just like, well, you have no control over that. It's one of those things that you're constantly putting yourself out there as an artist, and you want people to like you, not necessarily for ego and things like that, but you're putting your art out there, you're putting your heart on a stage, and that's, whether it looks like it or not, you've put thought and effort into it. And, you know, it's just one of those constant artistic struggles, I think, that we all go through.
So let me ask you, when you kind of have those moments of, you know, self-doubt or just, you know, worried about what people think or whatever it may be, do you have kind of any strategies that kind of help you move on through that? Or how do you stay kind to yourself? How do you kind of, you know, keep yourself from kind of falling in or wallowing into that?
I think that's a really good question. I mean, we're all susceptible to moments of feeling
Mm-hmm.
down on ourselves and doubting ourselves. And especially, I mean, I've done a fair bit of travel in the US and the UK as well. So I know people that are full-time performers, but in Adelaide especially, there are no full-time burlesque performers. We don't have any, you know, regular burlesque clubs, and we've got a few monthly shows, but we don't have anything that's weekly or anything like that. So you're not dealing with those issues as often as not, and so you're not being constantly validated by the fact that you have shows, if that makes sense. You know, like if you have a weekly show, then you are constantly, as well as putting yourself out there, you're constantly being validated by the fact that you're being booked or that you are performing and you are on a stage and people are clapping at the end of it, and, you know, and you're meeting the audience. So I think it's sometimes, to use an Australian expression, it's a long time between drinks sometimes, you know, when it might be 2 months before you have a gig. If you're not leaving Adelaide to, say, go to Melbourne or Sydney to pick up a show, which is Melbourne, our closest major city, is a 9-hour drive away. I'm going to put that into context. Oof. So it's not like, you know, LA to San Diego, or, you know,
right.
We're not talking about just like tripping out of town for a night. We're talking about a 2-day trip if you're going in car. So the reality of our performance style is very different over here in Australia. So I think we have a very good community, and you've probably got similar sort of pages on Facebook and social media and stuff like that, where you can just, you feel like you're messaging a friend, and they're all industry professionals, you know, industry, like other burlesque performers and costume makers. And, you know, if you're feeling like that, we tend to reach out to people in that community. There's like brother, big sister groups and things like that in the UK and things. As for myself, I am really lucky that I have my mother and I are very, very close. We're best friends. So when I'm feeling like sort of down and second guessing, we sort of like workshop it, I guess, and sort of like break it down into like, why am I dissatisfied with that, or what I need to do with that, and you know, where I'm going next. And a lot of the times when I'm feeling the most down is when there's no, like, it seems like a long way away, that the shows are far away, you know, like there's, you know, and so I think it's got something to do with that validation of, you know, like when you have a show coming, you've got something to work for, you've got that sort of, and it's artistic and it's creation and it's drive, and that's what you're looking at. But when you're looking at your calendar and there's nothing there, that's when you start going like, oh God, am I not good enough? And then you just, you know, the reality is, make yourself a cup of tea, have a hot bath, and just be really grateful for what you do have. And I try and remind myself that I've had some amazing experiences, and I've, you know, traveled the world doing this. And so what if I have an empty month for a calendar month? You know, look at the end of the year, you're going to have 6 weeks on the road, or, you know, you were in Edinburgh last year and blah, blah, blah. So you kind of just have to take stock, I think, and really give yourself a pat on the back for what you have achieved. It's easy to look at what you haven't got, but when you start looking at what you have got, I think that's important for yourself.
Some really great advice. I love what you're saying about, you know, really just kind of analyzing what it is that's kind of dragging you down into that funk. You know, you said for you, oftentimes it's when that calendar's not full and you feel like, oh, it's a long way till my next show. And I can totally understand that. That I really loved when you were mentioning that, because I'm going through a similar thing. I haven't actually performed in a little while. I've just moved back to Orlando from Paris. I haven't made my connections here, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And so So I feel that. I know how that is, and you're absolutely right. That can really drag you down.
Yeah.
But whether it's that or something else, just really analyzing, kind of what it is, breaking down these feelings and just doing some self-examination and then keeping that gratitude alive. I love that advice. I think it's really great.
Thank you.
So, who inspires you in your life? I mean, I can imagine you've mentioned your mother a couple times. I can imagine that was a huge inspiration growing up. Is that kind of what you would consider one of your big ones, or do you have some other people that also inspire you?
I would say, in terms of inspiration, I was really lucky to grow up in quite an alternative. My mum had a cafe when I was quite young, when I was 13 in Port Adelaide, which was I don't know anywhere to liken it to in Orlando, but I could probably say like quite artistic, grungy, a real intense mix. Like what I'm imagining is potentially like Brooklyn maybe, or even
Okay.
in New York, like when it was not pre-gentrification and things like that,
Right.
pre-hipster, let's say pre-hipster.
There you go.
Even Venice Beach is still, I really love the feeling of being in Venice Beach. That's what it reminded me of. There's just like this creative vibe. There was people just talking on the street, and there was a real mix of socioeconomic groups as well. Like it was, and I was about 12 or 13 when she bought that, and would basically spend one weekend a fortnight when I was with her on the weekends, when I wasn't with my dad, in the company, and basically just wandering around the streets of Port Adelaide, and chatting with people. And there was a local market that was sort of like a junk market sort of thing, and hanging out with kids on the street and talking to adults, and in Mum's cafe as well. There was it was a real artistic sort of vibe, and those people were around me when I was forming my ideas of, I guess, my identity and what the universe should be like. And I say should because obviously what I think the universe is like is very different to what it actually is like. But things talking about inclusion and rights and arts and the importance of arts to a community, not and funding, and like there was all these sorts of things going on as I was a young person. So I was sort of like seeing this, and these adults essentially were talking to me and including me in these conversations in an adult way. So some things obviously went way over my head, as they do when you're 13, 14, 15, but some things really stuck in, and I'm really lucky in that way that and then on the other side, my dad had quite a fair amount of money. So I went from living quite poorly and then swapping out and going on ski holidays with my father and his new partner and their children and my brother. So it was just this crazy mixture of like realities a lot of the time. And so I think what has really stuck with me as genuinely inspirational to me is passion. I find people's like, if you're passionate about Ninja Turtles, you tell me about those Ninja Turtles. Like if and I get so excited when I look at someone or I listen to someone, and I might not like what they're doing. Like I might think that their style of art, I don't actually like it, and I potentially wouldn't want it on my wall. But I start talking to that person, and that person is telling me about why they do it like this, and this is how they came up with their technique or whatever. And all of a sudden, I have to have that piece, and I have to see that show. Like you're telling me your idea and your creation, and then so that's really inspiring to me. I find people and their passions so inspiring, and it pushes me to look at what I find, what I'm passionate about and what I want to do. And then why the heck shouldn't I do it? That person's there playing with Ninja Turtles for a living, and I want to play with fire and put nails into my nose. Okay, do it. What is stopping you? So that's, I find passion so, like I'm getting all like, oh, my hands, I'm talking like a crazy person in my own lounge room. But yeah, passion is, for me, that is, if you're passionate about something, then you do it. If you can do that thing every single day for the rest of your life, you are going to be so happy, and it doesn't matter if it makes you a dime, in my opinion. If you can do what you love every single day, or if there's something that you love that you found something, then you do it, because you'll never be sad, and you'll never, there's something to be said for doing what you love.
Yeah. I tell you, I get kind of chills just listening, because I can just picture, little teenage or even preteen Leopard Lass, kind of wandering around these, kind of like you said, kind of grungy maybe streets, or pre-hipster era, kind of things, and just like a sponge, just absorbing and taking it all in, and seeing people that are passionate, and just how when you're at that stage with that, because you're so influenceable. I don't know if that's the word, whatever. You're so able to be influenced. We'll say that,
that flows just like English. Yes.
Yeah, there you go. That's better. Just seeing all these people who have this kind of passion. Oh, I can just, I love hearing, and I love that you've taken the time to really think about that and how that has influenced you as a person, as a character, as your profession. I just love that.
Yeah, it was very important for me.
So interesting. And I do absolutely agree with you what you're saying about passion. I mean, for me, one of my biggest, values, or one of the things I kind of value the most is connection. I've defined it as connection, but it really is seeing people's passion. It's connecting with people and seeing that passion in their eyes. And, we've talked about on this podcast before, I actually did an episode on passion versus purpose. And there's nothing wrong with either one. And the way we kind of talked about it was that passion, is just that feeling of just love. And it doesn't matter if it makes me a dime, and it doesn't do, and everything. And then it kind of gets even not necessarily better, but just, better for the wallet, Yeah. If you can also find a purpose, and if you can combine a purpose in with that, and that purpose being more of an exterior motivation, right? Like finding like not exterior as in like materialism, but like what your art is doing for other people, not just what it does for you, but what it's kind of bringing out from others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
So that's been really, but I love that you see that in other people, and you kind of look out so much for that, the Ninja Turtles and all that. I love that. That's great. So what do you find, I'd love to hear, since you do kind of, these different, kind of sideshow acts, how do you kind of develop your numbers or your acts, or how does it work for you? Do you have a set standard, or is a lot of it improvisation, or how does it work for you?
I have found that if I think back onto my acts that I have at the moment, usually it always starts with a piece of music or a sound that I hear or something like that, and I get really like fired up about a song that I've heard, or a sound, or a series or sequence of music, and then it starts coming from there. An idea will spark from there. A lot of the time, like I said, I like to sort of fuse the sideshow with the sex from the burlesque and things like that. So I like doing, like the sideshow sort of stuff, and being quite out there and in your face with those sorts of bits. But I really love combining that with the classic stylings of the burlesque and the classic sort of things. So, I wear a lot of corsetry, for example, and I cover them in crystals and all of that sort of stuff, so that, I am like a little bowerbird when it comes to shiny things. So I guess it just sort of comes, and a lot like the act that I'm working on at the moment, which probably I'll be taking around the States, that's where it's going to start its life. There was just a song, and I heard it, and I heard what the lyrics were saying. I'm obviously going to try and find a different edit to the song, because I don't like using songs that I've just heard, because I think the chances of hearing it again in someone else's act is probably more high than if I try and find something or mix it with something else and turn it into my own. But basically the intention behind it, the lyrics and the way that the song moves really spoke to me at that point. So I'm like, yep, okay, I know what I have to do. I've got to do this, and I've got to strip this away, and I have to do this, and then there's going to be fire. So basically that's how it starts, and then I move into costuming. I don't really even look at choreography. I have a general idea of what I want to happen, but I don't look at choreography until I've dealt with the costume, because for me,
interesting,
the costume has to come first, and I have an idea of how I want things to be visually perceived by an audience. Basically, I then work on the choreography after I have the costuming down. So that might be back to front. I don't know.
No, I mean, I don't think it is. I think it probably, especially in something like burlesque, when so much of, the choreography is based on what you're taking off when and how
Mm,
that works,
mm.
So I don't think I sound surprised, but I'm not really. I mean, that does, kind of make some sense logically. And so then as far as your choreography, is it all pretty, is it pretty well choreographed, or do you leave room for kind of some improvisation and playing around, or do you stay to a pretty strict kind of setup for your number?
I am mildly control freakish. Um,
Gotcha.
so most of my stuff is fairly well choreographed because I think musicality in an act is important. And I think that if you can punctuate a movement with a section of the music, it makes your potentially a movement or a gesture so much more powerful if it is at a certain point in the music. So I am quite on top of my choreography. Having said that, you always have to allow for the fact that you're going to have a costume malfunction, or working with sometimes when I have my nails, if I'm doing a blockhead routine and one of the nails gets stuck in a bit of my costuming and I'm trying to get it out from like this hidden section of a glove, and I've missed a cue or something like that. I mean, you have to allow for that sort of stuff, and you can't drop your bundle and I start the music over. I can't work under these conditions. Like, you can't do that.
The show must go
The
on,
show
right?
must go
Yeah.
on. So, obviously you have to allow for that. But I am, especially with an act that I'm bringing out for a new, like I'm going to bring it out. It's very well choreographed at that point. But again, there's, like I said, when we were talking about the Adelaide Fringe and that 30-day show, there was so much that I had choreographed that changed as I realized what the audience preferred and things like that. So again, there's a little bit of flexibility in that when you debut an act, you really can then look at it and go, right, how to gauge from the audience, and feedback obviously comes in. And a lot of the times my mum's in a show, so I'll just basically then go, oh, they didn't really see that, or that didn't go down as well as I thought it did, but this bit they thought was great. So, you just kind of then start picking up on those things. But you have to be really aware of your audience. You can't be internal when you're performing, I think, to pick up on those nuances from an audience. That's something I'm always watching and feeling out the audience while I'm performing. So
Oh, I love that. I love that. So what is currently, at this moment in time, what's your biggest struggle as an artist?
for me, I feel, and this goes back to about, I think it was a month, maybe a little bit over ago, a video of mine went viral on Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
and it's at like 660,000 views or something like that.
Oh my.
And that brought to the forefront things that I had never even, like, I had considered them, but I did not consider them in these respects. I just felt completely unprepared to be
Mm.
actually noticed, and especially on such a global scale. Like, there was people in, it was getting hits in Japan. I was getting people comment to me in Spanish, and I was just like, this is all on Facebook. I don't have a website. Like, I was just constantly like, what am I supposed to be doing with all of
Mm.
this going on? Like, I've got like so many shares and so many thousand comments and la 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 la. And I'm like, and I don't know what to do with it. I felt completely unprepared. And I think at the moment for me, that is my struggle. I felt unprepared, and I'm making some changes to be more prepared. But I
Mm-hmm.
think, and I mean, someone could have told me a year ago that I needed a website. And I mean, people have said, you need a website. And I'm like,
Sure.
I need a website. Sure, I need a website. But at the
Mm.
same time, I'm like, yeah, but Facebook and Instagram and Twitter are working for me. So, I just, but yeah, I just felt completely
Yeah.
unprepared. I had no way of harnessing that, like, because, yeah, cool. So what, like 600,000 people have seen my fiery, twerky butt. And then, but that doesn't get you anything. You don't get a dollar or a cent for every
Mm.
time that happens. So you've got to then turn that into a currency that is, again, okay, so we go back to our purpose for ourselves. How do we you know, so, and I just felt completely, I was overwhelmed. I was so anxious. It was literally 2 weeks that my phone just melted in my handbag every single day.
Oh my
I was getting
goodness.
messages. I'm still getting messages. And I mean, I am so grateful for it. Please do not get me wrong about that.
Sure.
But it was just, I was so overwhelmed and just felt completely just caught unawares. And I mean, maybe that's what happens when people go viral, you know, accidentally. There is just that whole like, oh my God. And then it was just like that whole nervousness of these people like, I want to come to your show. I want to meet you. I want to, you know, and I was like, what if they think I'm crap? Like
Oh, that imposter syndrome again. Yeah.
Again, but you just go like, there's all that doubt that happens. You know, and I mean, I am very thankful that I had such beautiful responses very early on. I got some negativity as it got past 200,000 views. That's when the nasty pasties came out of the woodwork.
Yeah, those trolls, they're always around.
Oh my God.
Some people have nothing better to do. What's wrong with them?
And I was just like, why would you even write that on there? Like, it would have taken you longer to write that than it did to scroll past. Like, I don't even understand. You know, but I was very lucky. I had some really beautiful people reach out and privately, most of them were via inbox onto my Leopard Lass page, and they were just like, you know, so inspiring to see people doing what they love and something that they're passionate about, which I'm so glad that came across in like a 26-second clip.
Yes.
But yeah, that's probably my biggest struggle at the moment is being prepared, I think. Especially as I travel a lot for performing. So yeah, just constantly feeling that need of needing to be prepared.
Well, it's hard. I mean, you know, people who listen to the show know that I'm a big advocate of kind of like the business side of the burlesque too, you know, and like making sure like you have like whether it is a website or a really good like Facebook page that you know, the problem with those external, I don't want to get into too big a tirade here because I could go on and on, but the problem with these, you know, things like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram is that you don't own your list. So at any point, Facebook could make a change and you could lose all of your fans, right?
My friend in Texas, and he was just like, and because I said, do I need a website? Like I was kind of rolling my eyes, and he was sitting on my couch and he's like, yeah, you do. You absolutely need it. He goes, Facebook will be non-existent in a certain amount of time. He didn't have a time frame, obviously, but he's like, that will disappear. It will become no longer cool. It will become, you know, you need a website. You need a way for people. And I was just like, and then literally as this clip started going viral, I was like, I should have listened to him. I should have listened to him. My man, he was trying to help me and I didn't listen.
So for everybody listening, take a clue from Leopard Lass here, right?
Please get a website.
Don't have a website.
Please
get one.
Get a
website. So easy. And I'm happy to help. I put this call out there before. I'm happy to help anybody kind of put together their website. You can just email me, velvet@burlesquestrippeddown.com. And I'm happy to help out because it's just so important. Really, I mean, you mentioned currency and those views don't count for anything. And the only currency we can kind of get from those kind of things is starting an email list, basically, because that's at this point, that's the only way to guarantee, or at least for the most part guarantee that your message is going to be seen, because Facebook changes their algorithms all the time. Now Instagram is doing it a little bit as well. I'm not sure what the future is going to hold there. So you can't even guarantee that even, you know, 50% of your Facebook followers are even going to see what you post.
No.
So the only way to do it is to have those email addresses or something like that. That's your kind of your direct link. It's so important.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then I was like, okay, well, I've got all this activity happening on my page, so I'm going to set up you know, like I set up an email list basically, and it was like, subscribe to this, you know, like, so you can get them into one place. But of course, on Facebook, that doesn't work if you use your phone. The tab doesn't work.
Oh, right.
So I was then like, okay, I've done this thing, so it's going to help me harness some of this stuff. I'm actually going to act on it and I'm going to do the right thing. And then, like, no one in the universe uses an actual computer, like, you know.
Right.
And so, again, I was like, oh, fuck me. Are you kidding? Like, I've tried to do this thing that everyone's telling me to do. And yeah, it was just one of these things. It was just trial by fire, really. I mean,
well, and that's one of the biggest struggles. I mean, for a lot of people as artists, I mean, me, I have some geeky love for like kind of the tech and business side of it. It's just this weird thing that I have. But for so many artists, I know it's like, man, I don't want to spend time on my computer figuring out these plugins or doing this or doing that. Like, I want to be creating. And granted, I mean, me as Velvet, of course, I want to be creating too, but I kind of like the other challenge as well. But I know a lot of artists don't. They just want to like focus more on the things they love, that passion that they have, instead of having to worry about all this other junk.
Like,
and so it's hard to find that balance. I don't even know
how to use Dropbox really successfully.
Right. Yeah.
So, you know, like the thought of having to set up a website, I'm very, very grateful. I have a really, really close dear friend, and her husband actually does websites for a living. So he is going to sit with me and help me.
Oh, that's fabulous. Yeah.
Because otherwise, like it literally, like and tech, I'm just not great at it. It took me so long. This is another guilty secret. And Anastasia, wherever you are, if you tune into this, she used to book me for shows, and she used to live in Adelaide. She now lives in Melbourne, and she used to book me for shows. And she would be like, oh, just send through your music and send through your tech. And I would always be the one saying, like, oh, yeah, I'll do it tomorrow. Yeah, I'm away from the computer. I'll do it tomorrow. And then I would be that one. I am that one, and I am so sorry. And I apologized to her in person when I saw her last. And I was like, I was the one that would show up with my phone at the gig and just say, I forgot to send it. Can I just plug it in? And she would always say yes. She would always say yes. And I would always turn it on flight mode, and I would, do everything I could. But I was just like, and then I had to admit to her, I said, I had no idea how. I didn't know how. And then when she would say, oh, just invoice me, babe. Just send me an invoice. I'm like, how the fuck are you meant to send a fucking invoice? Like, can't you just pay me money here? Like, just give me the cash.
Right.
And
well, that's the thing. There's so many other aspects, and if it's not kind of your cup of tea, and there's things, I mean, you may not even know about, and you may not care to know about either. And I think that's where, there's kind of that missing link for some artists, is like finding that, like, somebody to either help out with that or some easy way to figure out how to do those kind of things.
Yeah, and so anytime I see someone doing those, like workshops, because obviously I follow globally what people are doing, and I get posted into things, and whenever they do like those business style workshops, I'm like, do it, because if you don't know how to attach a file to a stupid email, you're going to be the one rocking up with your iPhone to a gig. Right. And your producer's not going to like you very much.
Indeed, you're absolutely right. And I will say, I mean, as a little teaser, I haven't gotten them quite going yet, but I am working on some kind of more virtual based instead of in-person based, kind of some trainings on these kind of things. So definitely, for you and for everybody listening, kind of keep an eye out for those in the future, because I would love to help other people out. Because like I said, I have this geeky love for, like, not necessarily tech. It's not like I'm a programmer or anything like that, but I love tools. I mean, people who listen have been following me probably know that, because I've talked a lot about them, like about like different apps and like things that can just help make life easier, because there's so much that tech can help with if you can get past kind of that, like, it's harder to set up sometimes, but then it can make everything run smoother.
Yeah, I mean, we can say we touched on this before we went live with the interview, but I ignored your first couple of requests for the thing, because you were like, we do it by Skype, and I'm like, I don't know how to do Skype.
I don't know what that is.
What is Skype? Spell it. I don't even know what Skype is. So if you're listening, it's because I managed to download Skype onto my new Samsung, and here we are, beautiful people. Like, how exciting is this? I am excited about this because I've never done this before. So
great. I love it. We're starting new, we're moving you up with the tech stuff, learning new things.
Ticking boxes. 2016.
Indeed. And you can tick the box of fireworks for you in the background, because those are still going on. Woohoo!
So exciting. I wish I could see them. I really love fireworks.
And it's funny because I tried to sneak out because, I don't know, I thought it was just the 4th of July, but they started like 2 nights ago. People started doing this around, and I can see some of them just over the trees in my backyard, but just a little bit. And okay, the craziest thing happened. I have to go on a little tangent here. So last night in the middle of the night, I started hearing this meowing. And of course I start cursing it from outside because I'm like, oh, damn feral cats, stray cats, like whatever. And so I can't really sleep very well, whatever. And then around 10 o'clock this morning, it started up again. Oh. And I was so confused. I didn't know what was going on. So I start going outside, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, it sounds like somebody's hurt. Anyway, long story short, I find this tiny little kitten. We think it is about 7 weeks old. Oh. And it's stuck between, I have these like concrete or like cinder block steps and like my screen porch. Oh, and it was like stuck Well, I don't know if it was actually physically stuck, but it
Yeah,
was
but
back there and
cats
wouldn't
get
come
stuck
out.
in crazy spots.
I know. I think it was just scared. And I the more I thought about it, the more I was like, maybe it was the fireworks last night. Freaked it
Oh,
out.
of course.
And it went in there. And so eventually we had to like break the screen door, but we got it out and we took her, as we found out it's a girl. We took her into the vet. I can't have pets where I'm staying, but my mom's gonna keep her. So now my mom has a new little
Oh,
kitty and she
how
is
exciting.
adorable. She's absolutely, and she looks like a bat. There was a moment too where I was looking in at her because I could only kind of barely see. And she looked so much like a bat that I had to like literally remind myself, okay, bats don't meow. It's not a bat
Oh, okay.
because
See, I
she's
wouldn't have
meowing.
gone that logically yet. I would have been like, it's a bat, it's a bat, it's a bat, it's a bat. I'm going to be eaten by a bat. Oh my God. Have I had my tetanus? Ah, ah, ah. Yeah, no, I would totally have thought it was a bat for a
There
lot
was a
longer than
moment
that.
where I kind of recoiled a little bit because she looked like she was about to like fly up at me or something. But because she has just that
Fat
face,
cat,
those
fat
ears, and
cat, what you gonna do when it comes for you? Yeah.
that cat.
Fat
Oh,
cat, yeah.
yes. So anyway, that's what I'm thinking about with the fireworks now. I'm like, I better not get any more animals that are
No
freaking
more
me
bat
out right
cats.
now. No more, no more. Anyway, all right. Well, let's start to kind of move on. We're going to move on to the next few sections. But before
Mhm.
we do, I would love to know what is one thing that you always have in your burlesque backstage kit or your performance kit when you do a show?
Scissors.
Scissors.
Yeah.
That's a very, very good answer.
I have now like come up with a little box. I got this tin that had the most gorgeous French salted caramel cookies in them, and I ate all the cookies. But
Of course.
it is perfect. It's like a glorious purple with lovely like stuff. So that now has like my fire Assels because I have them always on me because it's amazing how many times people go, oh no, we can't do fire, and then they sneakily get me to do fire because no one at the venue has actually confirmed whether fire is a definite no. So we kind of always are on the side of like, well, we really want you to do the fire. So I
Right.
always carry those. I always have a standard set of course, Glorious Pacey's her tassels as well, and then I have some sewing stuff. I can't sew, but sometimes like things come undone, and you always look really prepared if someone else needs something sewing, and you say, "I have needles, I have thread." Even if you don't know what to
Yes.
do with them, you look like a very good person. Um,
Yes. Yes. I'm
so
exactly the same. I have
I'm
no idea how to sew anything.
I'm
But
always a fan of presenting myself like I've got my shit together, even if I don't. And then, so there's scissors in that kit as well. And then there is my carpet tape, which I use to put my Assels and tassels on.
that sounds painful. Is it not painful, the carpet tape? No? It's not bad?
No. I
No?
mean, I
Okay.
basically only do asseling. I do some tasseling, but I very
Gotcha.
rarely do. So
Okay.
it's never in my very, very sensitive regions. Um, but it just sticks so well that
Yeah.
there's no reason for me not to use it. Like the slight discomfort of taking it off does not cover the discomfort of a tassel flying off and your nipple being out there,
Truth. Yeah, yeah,
you know?
exactly.
So
You got to weigh these things out.
I just figure like if it's going to stick it on, and I've got this like Carmen Miranda Tutti Frutti act that I do, and
Nice.
the pasties that I have is actually this giant contraption that my mum and I made because I was like, I want it to look like this, and then I want it to have like, it basically is two bra cups that have all been decorated with fruit and feathers and birds, and then it's got like this satin shawl, so it's all connected, but so heavy, and no other tape or no amount of glue was sticking it to me. So I basically have dedicated my life to carpet tape.
There you go. It is your thing, huh?
Yeah.
Carpet tape. Good
Yeah.
to know. All right, so our next little section is called Pick Your Poison. So we've talked a lot today about kind of, your journey and your performance and this and that. We've also talked about cats and fireworks, but that's aside.
Legitimate points to bring up during this interview.
I agree. I think, important things. So these are I have actually 10 different questions, but I only need you to pick one of them. It's going to be a number 1 through 10, and these are just more kind of random questions just to get to know you as a person a little bit better. So any number you like, numbers 1 through 10.
I'm going to pick number 7.
Number 7. All right. I would love to know, what is your go-to karaoke song?
Oh my God, okay. I've never done karaoke in my life.
What? How can you have never? I literally just like slapped my armrest. Like I was like outraged.
I heard that and I was like, wow, did a pig just fall over? Is there another cat fall?
I am
I've
outraged.
never done
How
it.
can you have never done karaoke?
If I just said it's just really not my thing, that's
Fair
probably
enough.
the closest sit the closest I could get. And another thing that nobody really knows about me is that I can actually sing. I don't sing very much now, only to myself in the bathroom and sometimes to my children in the car. But I used to do choir and stuff like that as a kid. I just don't do karaoke. I've never understood it. I've never understood why people like going to karaoke bars.
I think the alcohol might have something to do with it.
Yeah,
often.
hey, look, I will sit there and drink gin while you sing your little heart out. You pick your favorite song and I will drink gin. I went into a tiki bar in LA back while I was there in April, and we went in there and I was like, yeah, this is so cool. Next minute, there was karaoke going on, and I literally slammed my cocktail, like my tiki mug. I was like, the fuck is fucking karaoke doing in a tiki bar? This is not legitimate. I am sure this did not happen at Santa Traders. Oh my God, what is going on? And I was just like, I just sat there, and like, luckily my friends and my boyfriend was there, and like they get into it and they got up and sang, and it was fine. And I don't mind it, but I was just like, really, you can invade my tiki haven?
They put karaoke everywhere these days. You know, you can get at any bar. I
spend a lot of time in my own room.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I enjoy it sometimes. I have to be in the right mood. I very rarely sing, but yeah. If I do, it's usually something by Prince. That's usually something
that's a good choice. Yeah. I would listen to you do anything by Prince. Yeah. That's a good choice.
All right, the next little section is called This or That, and it's basically just kind of our quick fire round. You get two choices, and you get to pick the one that appeals to you the most for whatever reason. There's no right or wrong. There's no interpretation. You can interpret these any way you like, and we just want to kind of get that quick fire, what's your first choice? Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm ready. It's like a burlesque pop quiz.
I know, it's kind of fun.
Oh my God.
Just like, no wrong answers. It's okay.
Okay.
Okay. Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts?
Starbucks.
City or country?
City.
Movies or TV shows?
TV shows.
Dita Von Teese or Dirty Martini?
Ooh.
I know.
Dirty Martini.
How about a Dirty Martini or a pint of beer?
A pint of beer drunk by Dirty Martini, which I actually had the other night.
I like how you got around one.
It actually happened. I got to finish her beer after a show, so I'm going to pick both.
Dang, that is a way to do it. I love it. How about day or night?
Night.
Harry Potter or Star Wars?
Harry Potter.
Top or bottom?
Bottom.
Any interpretation.
Yeah.
Mountains or ocean?
Ocean.
How about classic or neo burlesque?
Oh, all right. I'm gonna say neo.
How about peanut butter or jelly?
Peanut butter.
Comedy or tragedy?
Comedy. Although most of the comedies they do now are quite tragic, let's be fair. I'm going to stick with comedy. I like laughing.
How about Marvel or DC?
Oh, fuck, that's a comic book question. Shit. I know they are comic books. I couldn't tell you which one does which thing.
So Marvel is better.
Is Marvel better?
Yeah. Well, they're the ones. That's the one with the Avengers and the X-Men and all of that.
Okay. Yeah, I like them. So which one? DC does what?
DC has Superman and Batman, who are those two are cool, and like Catwoman and the Flash and Green Lantern.
Oh God! Oh, now you threw Catwoman into the mix. Oh shit!
Oh man,
okay.
It out, huh?
You did really mess that up for me. I appreciate your help, though. I really do.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna go with the subliminal Marvel is better, and say Marvel.
That's my girl. There she is. How about sleep or sex?
Sex. Although you can have sex while you're sleeping. Girls are very lucky in that way. You can kind of keep your eyes closed and just be like, okay, babes, yeah, do what you want to do. Yeah, cool. And I'm dozing at the same time. But by the end of it, you're well and truly into it. So you are no longer sleeping. But
that's a good point. I kind of
you can nap at the beginning. You can just work into it.
I like it. I think that's my favorite answer to that question so far. I like it. How about heels or bare feet?
I am barefoot.
Barefoot, that's what I like. And lastly, and I always ask this because I am a Paris, that's where I got my start, was in Paris,
Mhm.
doing burlesque. So how about Paris or Adelaide?
Oh, Paris. I have a very, very, very big love for Paris. I spent a month there. Um,
Yay.
and yeah, every time I go back, I love it. Yeah, I love Paris.
Next time you're there, you definitely send me an email because my troupe, Burlesque Moulin, does they just started doing a monthly brunch burlesque show and they have special guests every
Ah,
month. So
awesome.
next
Yeah,
time you're
right
heading
on.
there, I'm sure they would love to have you. And maybe I'm trying to get back at least once yet this year. It's hard to make that trip too often, but
I know, right?
yeah. So speaking of, kind of how big the world is and everything, the internet world is also very large. How do you typically stay current on burlesque news?
So this is where I drop the ball again, is I kind of just pick and choose what I want to know about when I want to know about it. As a individual performer, I sort of just dip in and out. I mean, obviously I'm on Facebook. Obviously I have a computer and things like that. So I have Twitter and la la la. Um, so I mean, I get emails about burlesque things and theatre and stuff like that. But a lot of what I horribly, a lot of my burlesque related news comes from Facebook and the internet.
I don't
And
think that's horrible. I think that's true for a lot of people these days.
I think
Facebook
it's the
becomes kind of the
reality.
news
It's our
source.
reality right now. Is
Yeah,
it
I
is the
agree.
way that it comes at us, and it's the easiest way to access it. And it's kind of cool that you can get a notification and then go back to it,
Yeah,
and
that's
access
true.
it when you want to. Because I am, constantly on the go and I'm not constantly switched on to, what's going on.
Hmm.
So I sort of dip in and out of the US market and then into the UK and then Australia. So I feel like I just am constantly just checking on where everyone is and what everyone's doing, which is fun. It's
Hmm.
lovely to see so many of my friends around the world following and doing what they love in any way, shape, or form.
Absolutely. So when you're on Facebook and you're kind of trying to find out what's going on, do you typically just kind of stay with your friends, kind of your news feed and what pops up from people that you're actually friends with? Or
Pretty
you
much.
mentioned groups earlier. Do you follow any specific groups or anything like that?
There's a few. There's the Aussie Burlesque Mafia, which is and there's Burlesque Australia, I think. So they're two that I'm sort of current with in Australia. I very rarely post anything or get involved, but I like to read what's going on. I'm like a silent creeper. I kind of just
Me too,
observe
yes.
what's going on, and then I
Uh-huh.
take from it what I will. And I am very well aware, especially when there's like a bit of a, and there are always spats going on. Like people have differences of opinions and people have topics that they find important and then want to talk
Hmm.
about them. And I'm very well aware that there are always two sides to the story, and then somewhere in the middle is the truth. So,
Definitely.
I'll read what I read, and then I'll read what someone else says, and then
Hmm.
I'll kind of go, oh yeah, I heard this, and just sort of sit back and watch what happens, and you know, and that's kind of how I gather what's going on. There's like everything, it's out there.
Hmm.
So you just got to sort of,
Absolutely.
and it's out there, and then it's open for interpretation as well. Because just because you say something with 100% intention, it does not mean that the person that reads it understands the intention with which you said it.
Amen. Amen. Especially, yeah, I mean, it's hard enough in person to get your point across
Yeah.
exactly the way you want it to. And then add in the fact that we're typing or, you can't convey tone. It just and then on top of that, you can layer in like any cultural differences,
Hmm.
even between those of us who are all technically Anglophones, but
Yeah.
there's, these different ways of phrasing things, a different way. I mean, it just gets so complicated to really express.
This
And that's
is
why I've had to start like taking things when I hear things, I've tried to, especially if I am ready to take them the wrong way, kind
yeah.
of parroting back, like to see if like, so what I understand from this is blank. Is
Yeah.
that what you're trying to say? Not in a confrontational way, but just like to clarify.
Yeah, exactly. And that's clarification is, yeah, and like you said, cultural differences and
Hmm.
some things even in between Australia and America. So we're both speaking English, but there are just different ways that we say things.
Yeah,
Different, and it is like it's just sometimes you just go, how could that not have made sense to you? But it didn't make sense or it didn't come across.
absolutely.
And like, so yeah, you just kind of have to be willing to wear it. And a lot of the times I don't put things in that situation, like especially online, because you can never properly, and you, like I said, you can never guarantee that 100% of the time people are going to convey your message in the way that you wish it to be.
Absolutely. It's one of those challenges, and we all have to kind of remember that when we're reading things too, is that people, we have to, be kind to ourselves, be kind to others, and kind of remember that sometimes people, and people, especially on like these instant kind of Facebook commenting and things like that, where it happens, you can type something out and be in anger or be in whatever you're feeling and hit enter, and it's out there, and then you may not feel the same way once it calms down. So that's something I've had to try to remember, is that sometimes people answer me very quickly and they don't always answer me or answer whatever.
Yeah.
And I have to give them a little bit of kindness, because, they don't always express themselves the best way, just same way I don't always express myself the best way.
Yeah. And that's global.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. So I'd love to hear about 2 videos that we should check out. If you can kind of tell us about these videos, one that is of you, if you have some of them up on YouTube or Vimeo or wherever, and one that you are watching right now that you just can't get enough of. I mean, I know you have at least one that went viral. Is that right?
Yeah. So, that went viral on Facebook. So that's actually, if you go to my Leopard Lass, like Facebook.com/Leopard Lass page, you will see that that's up there. And you can jump in on that, and feel free to share that around and get me some more views, because add to my anxiety. Why not?
Yay!
No, but that's probably, and the amazing thing is that clip was shot like almost over a year after I debuted that act, and I'd already toured that around the US, but this was just a clip and it went nuts. So my entire act, I do have a YouTube profile. You can search Leopard Lass Flaming Assels and you will find me there. And that's I did a show over in America last year, and that's probably one of my favorite tapings of it. It was a really great show. And the stage was awesome. So I had enough space to do the floor twerking with it as well, which was that's always fab.
Very nice. Yeah.
A video that I can't stop watching. Oh, man, you're going to put me on the spot, because I am awful at this sort of thing. Oh, hang on. I posted it this morning. Hang on. Oh, my God. Okay, I can actually answer this question for you. It is so flippin' cool. It says Refinery 29, but it's a hula hooping act, but it's all like crazy Mexicali looking, like hula hooping, and it just looks really, really cool. It's hilarious. It's basically my life if I was Mexican. This would be my life.
Fantastic. Well, for everybody listening, you can definitely, I mean, we are going to put all over the links for your Facebook page. They can go check that out like that. You can also go to get all the links from everything that we've kind of been talking about, including her projects and everything like that. You can go to burlesquestrippeddown.com/leopard. And that's going to have all of like the links. That's our show notes page, kind of a recap of what we're talking about and everything that you could want, including some of these amazing videos and the links to go check her out. So speaking of that, you mentioned Facebook. Is that kind of the best way to kind of keep up with you and get in contact with you, or what else?
Yeah,
what else do you have going on?
Do
you have that website
Facebook,
up yet?
No.
Okay, that's all right. When you do, you let me know.
Yeah, definitely Facebook at the moment is the best way to go. Although I am don't tell everyone, but I am so easy to access. It's not funny. So like Twitter, and then also Instagram. And like I said, I rarely sleep. So you can message me at 4 a.m. your time and I will answer in my time.
Oh, wow. Look at you. She is always ready. All right.
Spit on it and get ready to go. Let's go.
Yeah. So you're going to be updating your Facebook kind of as the best place, as far as all these new shows that are coming up?
Yes. And there'll be a web page coming up for the Sideshow tour. So we'll have our dates and the Google Maps of where you can come and see us. As we tour the US, you can totally follow the entire troop of us, because that's, what we're doing.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Well, I mean, you can keep me updated on that, on all those links. And then as soon as I get them, I will add them to the show notes, which I mentioned, burlesquestrippeddown.com/leopard. And awesome. So if you're listening to this episode kind of in the future, for us in the future, you can always check that out. And maybe there will be even more links to other things that don't even exist yet.
I know. My God.
My mind.
Head gone.
It's craziness. Well, this has been an amazing conversation. It's been really interesting to get to know you and to hear everything. Is there anything else you kind of want to like share or talk about with our audience?
No, I think we're cool. I really think
we did a lot.
I think we
Got some
covered a
good
lot of
shit.
things.
We really did. We
Really.
really did. All right. Well, definitely everybody tune in on later this week. I'll try to get up on Thursday. As some of you know, I am giving myself a little bit more leeway, being kind with myself. I was getting a little stressed out getting my second episode up every week on Thursdays. So I'm being a little kinder with myself. You'll get it somewhere between Thursday and Sunday, kind of in that range somewhere. But it's going to be a special Hot Tips episode with our very own Leopard Lass. We're going to be chatting about a couple of her favorite tips and going kind of diving a little bit deeper into that. So definitely check that out. Come back next week. And as I always ask, definitely check out the show notes for this. As I mentioned, burlesquestrippeddown.com/leopard. You can also share this episode with your friends. Please help us kind of get the word out. You can send me an email, velvet@burlesquestrippeddown.com. I am dying to know what you think of the podcast, how you think it's going so far, and what you see would help you out a little bit more. What you'd like to see different or anything like that. I'm happy to hear any feedback. There's always also the voicemail, which is pretty cool on burlesquestrippeddown.com. On the very right-hand side of any of our pages, you can click leave me a message and do a little recording of your beautiful, shiny, sexy little voice. I would love to hear it. And as always, if you're listening on iTunes, a rating and review is also greatly appreciated so that I know I'm not just talking into the void. There are actually people. Well, sweet. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you so much, Leopard Lass, for being with us today. It's been really amazing.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been I can't believe how long we talked for. I thought, oh, God, I'm so boring. We're not going to talk for longer than half an hour. But yeah.
Stop. No, I think we could have lasted another couple hours too, really.
We probably could have.
But we will go ahead and sign off now. Thank you again, everyone, so much for listening. We will catch you again soon. And until then, make sure that you stay sexy.
Bye.